Truth rising. Download
GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Well, I'm really honored to have him with us for the next 60 minutes. He is former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura, star of Hollywood alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger and many others. Two of my favorite movies, The Predator and, of course, The Running Man. And he is going to be with us again for the next hour. I want to talk about the bailout, the economy, the police state, 9/11 Truth, a TV show pilot he's working on. I want to talk about just a whole host of issues with him in the next hour. Governor Ventura, it's great to have you here with us.
Hi, Alex. Great to be here. Looking forward to coming down to Texas at the end of October.
Absolutely, and before this hour ends, I'll tell people specifically about that event. Out of the gates here, I didn't do any pre-interview. What do you think is most important to start off the hour with, sir?
I don't know, really. I guess the economy right now, of which, I'm paying, I think all of us are paying attention to it and trying, I guess, to figure out the dilemma is, does a bailout work or doesn't it work? You hear two sides to the story, and it certainly puts you in a predicament of picking the lesser of two evils, which means you're still picking evil.
Well, let me throw in my 2 cents. They are terrorizing the public with the president and others saying, do this or there'll be a depression. Stuff like that from a Treasury Secretary and a president itself is fire in a theater. And then if you read the bailout plan, it gives them total immunity. It allows them to basically be separate from the government with no oversight. So really, I think the $700 billion itself is a distraction compared to the new powers it gives the Treasury.
Okay, well, I'll trust you on that one. I've been involved in other things the last week or so. If that's the case, then I fully do not support the bailout. Then I think it's ridiculous because this bailout, if it indeed happens, should come with so many rules and regulations that it's as sound as anything you can imagine, because you can't be just taking money and handing people blank checks and telling them to fix it, because that leaves virtually no accountability. It's kind of like how the war was run in Iraq.
We've certainly seen a lot of that. We were lied about the war. We were lied to about so many other issues, and now the same crew. Let me take the conflict of interest. We have Henry Paulson, who still has a big stake in Goldman Sachs, directing tens of billions of dollars a week into his own company. I mean, how can he be doing that?
Well, I guess the best answer to that, Alex, is that we've forgotten that the Constitution today is a thing of the past. It's a document that doesn't exist anymore, which says there will be a separation of powers into 3 separate divisions. And as I look at the country today, I see that isn't happening at all. That we aren't a separation of power anymore. There seems to be no checks and balances whatsoever, which is what the forefathers tried to put in when they created the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, was that making it a system of checks and balances. And the problem is we've allowed people, I kind of laughed the other day when I heard Ralph Nader refer to George Bush as King George.
And a socialist.
I don't think Ralph is that far off with being able to say King George.
Well, I agree. He's also pointed out that George Bush is more socialist than any president we've ever had. He's just giving it all to the elite.
Right. Oh, yeah, completely. This is a bailout of wealthy, and their argument is that these are the people that provide the jobs, so that it will have a trickle-down effect to all of us, which I have to assume will be some correctness to it. But again, how do you bail out the top and trust what they're going to do? Clearly, I find it very interesting that the very people that wanted to deregulate everything are the ones now leading the socialist bailout.
Absolutely. Governor Jesse Ventura will also talk about his book that's been on the New York Times bestseller list, Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. He is our guest for the rest of the hour after this quick break. Stay with us.
A day unlike any.
Bail out the top and trust what they're going to do. Clearly, I find it very interesting that the very people that wanted to deregulate everything are the ones now leading the socialist bailout.
Absolutely. Governor Jesse Ventura will also talk about his book that's been on the New York Times bestseller list, Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. He is our guest for the rest of the hour after this quick break. Stay with us.
A day unlike any other in the long course of American history, a terrorist act of war against this country.
The enemy struck America on September 11th. But who is the enemy?
Bin Laden. This is his MO.
We have to look to the Middle East. We have to look to Osama bin Laden.
Fabled Enemies is the first 9/11 film to take a close look at the terrorist ties to intelligence networks inside the United States.
Some U.S. investigators believe that there are Israelis again very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S.
I'm aware that some Israeli citizens have been detained.
Bin Laden's connections to the CIA, the hijackers' ties to the FBI, the Saudi Arabian connection, the Israeli intelligence network, warnings and war games, the shadow government, and much, much more. Fabled Enemies. Get the DVD at Infowars.com or see it in super high quality, along with hundreds of other titles at PrisonPlanet.tv.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
You know, as a father and a husband, one of the enjoyable things in my life has been walking in at night and checking on my children, checking up on my wife, making sure she has the things she needs, but mostly providing for my family and knowing that they're secure, that they feel comfortable every day in their little skins. They don't have to worry about the oddities of the world taking over and wrecking their lives. I've always wanted to be a good provider, and I'm not going to change that now just because the economy's in upheaval and because there's a lot of political and social uncertainty, and I hear about global famines, and I see the escalating prices in gas and food and oil. Electricity is going to go way up, I'm told, this winter. Hey, I'm not going to sweat it. I've done the right thing. I got rid of a bunch of junk and toys out in the garage. I converted that money into food. That food's out there. I've got a 2 or 3 year supply of food in the garage. My family's secure. I don't got to worry, okay? I do hope that you'll join me in this new sense of American security. Call efoodsdirect.com. That's efoodsdirect.com or 1-800-409-5633. That's 800-409-5633. Call them today. You'll be glad you did.
David J. Smith for Newswatch Magazine. Did you know that the rise of the sin time system is actually run behind the scenes by an invisible spirit being called Satan? The Illuminati prefers to call him Lucifer. They worship him as if he were a god. He is causing the blindness of our people as to what is happening to them. They can't comprehend. We will lose our national sovereignty, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and all freedoms to this Christ-rejecting New World Order. We'd like to help you understand why these things are happening and offering you
and the GCN Radio Network.
Governor Jesse Ventura is our guest for the rest of the hour. There's so many issues to be discussed and to talk about. But finishing up with the bailout, you know, the internationalists that run the banking system created these trillions in derivatives. They tied it to our bank accounts, our 401ks. Now they're saying, come in and invest in this, or basically it's all going to implode. These are the same interests that have all been moving offshore. And so just in closing, any other thoughts on what's currently happening with the bailout that they are set to vote on in the Senate today, Governor?
Well, you know, again, we have to watch. My thing to tell all the American people is be vigilant, man. If you're not holding people's feet to the fire, you're going to get bad government. And that's the problem in this country as a whole, is that we sit back, we live in our own little worlds, and we don't pay attention to what's going on with the nation. And then by the time it catches us, we're basically caught with our pants down because we haven't paid attention at all. You know, maybe the good thing that will come out of this whole bailout issue is that it will finally get the American people to rise up, take their heads out of the sand, and start paying attention, Alex.
Yeah, I don't want to go back to ancient history, but I sure wish you were running for Senate. I don't blame you for not doing that because you got some other, you know, ways of getting the word out to the people staying in the fight, and we appreciate you not going back to back to Mexico to surf. We know that's probably quite beguiling, but let's get into the fact that you are doing a pilot, and I know you're doing some other stuff, but I don't know how far you can go, Governor.
Well, I'm doing actually. I've got possibly 2-3 pilots in the hopper, but I always like to tell people that I don't discuss them in great detail until the first check clears the bank. That's that there's these RTV shows, you know, and I'll be straight out front. I do get paid when I do pilots, like anyone else.
You're not a communist.
And our job, like, and you got to earn a living, and so. But the pilot that we're doing now with the True TV network, which is the formerly Court TV, is going to deal with conspiracies, and because conspiracies have fascinated me for going on 20 to 25 years or better now. You know. Starting off with the murder of John F. Kennedy and watching it evolve into everything else and now into the 9/11 conspiracies. And so I think it's very intriguing stuff. And even for people that don't believe or don't want to or whatever it may be, it's still very compelling and interesting. And and to me, it's truly better than anything like Tom Clancy could write or anything like that, because in many ways, real life has more intrigue and mystery than what